Welcome back to Collider. Today, we're diving into how Charlie Cox prepared for his iconic role as Daredevil and what makes his approach to the character in Daredevil Born Again stand out. Let's get started. Charlie Cox's preparation for Daredevil Born Again was no joke. To make his portrayal of Matt Murdock as authentic as possible, Cox took his training to a whole new level, diving deep into the world of MMA. He fully committed to learning the ropes of mixed martial arts. For this, he worked closely with Chris Fields, a former MMA fighter and coach at Team KF. Fields helped Cox build the necessary skills to make Daredevil's brutal fight scenes as real as possible. Cox's training was an all-in effort, with hours spent on striking drills, grappling, and sparring with top-level fighters. Fields was honestly shocked by Cox's dedication. He expected the typical actor approach, maybe a few sessions, a little sweat, then they're out. But Cox proved him wrong. "I'd put him through a little bit of hell, and then he'd be there the next day with a smile on his face," Fields said. Despite how tough the training was, Cox showed up every day, ready to push himself harder. The real challenge for Cox, though, was making his movements look good on screen. While he was learning MMA, he had to adjust everything to make it look cinematic. Real fight moves don't always look great on camera, so Fields and Cox worked together to ensure the strikes were sharp, the transitions smooth, and the movements held up even during Daredevil's signature long-take fight sequences. Fields explained that while MMA is awesome in real life, some of it doesn't translate well on camera. The goal was to make sure Cox's fighting looked as intense and clean as possible for the show. Cox's training wasn't limited to hitting pads or working on basic techniques. He sparred with experienced fighters at Team KF, which gave him a taste of what real fights are like. The point wasn't just to look good on screen, but to be able to pull off every move with precision, making sure everything from his footwork to grappling looked sharp. The commitment wasn't just about getting a workout in. It was about making his portrayal of Daredevil feel as realistic as possible. What's wild is that this wasn't Cox's first time getting serious about his physical training for Daredevil. When he first played Matt Murdock back on the original Netflix series, he worked with boxing and conditioning coach Nakam Washington to get in shape for the long fight scenes. But for Born Again, Cox stepped up his game even more, diving deep into MMA, something he'd never done before. It was a huge leap, but Cox was all in, taking his training way beyond what it was in the past. Even while filming in Ireland, Cox didn't slack off. He found top-tier gyms to keep refining his skills, and ended up extending his workout sessions from an hour to several hours. He worked on his striking, grappling, and defense, becoming a better fighter with each session. His commitment to staying in shape wasn't just about learning a few moves for the camera, it was about fully understanding combat. By the time Born Again wrapped, Cox was more than just a guy pretending to fight on screen. He was a guy who knew what it felt like to truly fight. At the end of the day, Cox's approach to this season was a game changer. His level of dedication to MMA and fighting techniques shows in every fight scene. The show goes beyond just the physical side of being Daredevil and takes a hard look at Murdock's internal conflict. Cox portrays a character who is constantly torn between his desire to fight for justice and the personal toll it takes on him and those around him. His character has to balance being a lawyer and a vigilante, and it's not easy. Cox has mentioned how he's always focused on getting into the mindset of someone who is dedicated to doing good, but at the same time, is forced to live with the consequences of his actions. It's this complexity that really adds depth to his portrayal of Matt Murdock. The new season brings back old familiar faces, including Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, and explores the toll that Murdock's dual life has taken on these relationships. His friendship with Foggy and his complicated romantic involvement with Karen are key parts of the show. For Cox, these personal relationships highlight the challenges Matt faces in balancing his everyday life with his alter ego's responsibilities. This season really digs into those struggles and the emotional weight that comes with them, offering a deeper look at how Murdock's choices affect the people he loves. It's not just about fighting crime, it's about trying to figure out where he belongs and who he really is. One of the standout moments of the season is a rooftop scene that really hits home for Murdock's character. It's a brutal moment that forces Matt to take a hard look at his own sense of justice and confront the harsh reality of his choices. Cox himself has said this scene is a major turning point in Matt's arc, pushing him to reflect on who he is and what he's been doing all these years. It's this kind of intense emotional depth that sets Born Again apart, showing the human side of Daredevil as he struggles with his decisions. The season also introduces some fresh faces, like Heather Glenn, a therapist who challenges Matt's view on vigilantism. Their relationship adds a new layer to Matt's character, showing a different perspective on his actions. It forces him to reconsider his approach to justice and whether it's really worth the cost. These kinds of new dynamics make Born Again feel even more personal, as Matt is forced to reckon with who he is and what kind of hero he wants to be. Charlie Cox really brings Matt Murdock to life with his deep understanding of the character's internal struggles. It's not just about the fight scenes or the physicality of being Daredevil. It's about exploring the tough choices, the pain point, and the sacrifice that come with trying to do the right thing. Cox's performance makes Daredevil Born Again more than just another superhero show. It's a story about heroism, morality, and the personal cost of fighting for justice. Daredevil Born Again brings a fresh, deeper approach to Charlie Cox's portrayal of Matt Murdock, giving the actor a chance to take his performance to new places. While previous seasons of Daredevil were known for intense fight scenes and physical training, this new season gives Cox the opportunity to explore a more emotional side of the character. Under the guidance of showrunner Dario Scardapani, the creative team made sure the show kept its dark, mature tone while also digging into some richer storytelling. For Cox, this meant tapping into a more complex version of Matt Murdock than ever before. What makes Born Again stand out is how much more personal the season feels compared to previous ones. While Cox has always cared about Matt's emotional journey, this time around, it's front and center. The season takes a closer look at the emotional fallout of Matt's dual life as a lawyer and vigilante. Cox explained that this season, it's not just about Matt doing the right thing. It's about the toll it takes on him. The character's internal struggles are explored in more depth, and Cox gets to show a side of Matt that's much more vulnerable than before. He's still fighting for justice, but the weight of that mission is really starting to wear on him, which makes his journey feel even more relatable. While the emotional side of Matt's character gets a bigger focus, his physicality is still a big part of the season. Cox's past training for Daredevil was all about mastering martial arts for those killer fight scenes. This time, though, the physical demands of the role were balanced with the emotional exhaustion that comes with Matt's lifestyle. Cox had to show that Daredevil isn't just about being tough. He's dealing with the mental and emotional toll of constantly fighting crime. The action is still intense, but this time there's a real emotional cost behind every punch and kick, which makes the fight scenes hit harder. One of the highlights of Born Again is the return of Jon Bernthal as Frank Castle or the Punisher. Their dynamic adds a whole new layer to Cox's performance. The two characters are no longer just enemies. They share a kind of pain and moral conflict that makes their interactions feel raw and real. Cox has said working with Bernthal was a major highlight of the season, as their chemistry really adds something special to the story. It's not just about the physical fights between the two, it's about the emotional toll of their shared experiences. These moments add depth to Matt's character, showing how far he's willing to go in the name of justice. This season also takes a deeper dive into Matt's relationships with Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. In the past, these relationships were important, but this time around, we see just how much Matt's secret life impacts the people he loves. Cox does a great job of balancing Matt's commitment to Daredevil with the emotional demands of his personal life. His relationships are more complicated than ever, and Cox really brings that to life in a way that adds a lot of heart to the show. Daredevil Born Again shows how much Charlie Cox's portrayal of Matt Murdock has grown. Thanks for watching Collider. See you next time.